My folks tried to hand off my inheritance to their favorite kid, my sister, but my grandparents had a surprise none of us saw coming. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and let me tell you, my family's been wrapped up in favoritism for as long as I can remember. Ever since we were little, my younger sister Tabitha, who's 24 now, has always been the one my parents doted on, especially my dad. That favoritism only grew stronger as we got older. Tabitha was treated like royalty from the start. I still remember when I was 5 and she was 2, our parents went all out for her birthday. Face painters, a bounce house, even a petting zoo. Mine? I got a cake from the grocery store and a quiet dinner at home. That pretty much set the tone for how things would be from then on. As time went by, the gap between how we were treated got even more obvious. Tabitha always got the newest gadgets, the coolest clothes, and all the attention. When I was 9, I spent months saving up my allowance to buy a bike I really wanted. The day I got it, Tabitha saw it, threw a tantrum, and instead of teaching her to be patient or earn it, our parents immediately went out and bought her a fancier one. It was the same story in school. Tabitha's school events? They never missed a single one. Mine? They usually weren't there. One time, I landed the lead in the school play back in 5th grade. I spent weeks practicing and was pumped for the big night. But they showed up an hour late, right after my big scene. Turns out Tabitha had a stomachache, and they were busy comforting her. She was totally fine later. They just got caught up playing with her and lost track of time. When it came to academics, nothing I did ever seemed to be enough. I joined the math club, kept a straight A average through middle school, and even won a regional science fair. My parents barely acknowledged any of it. Meanwhile, Tabitha scored a B+ in her worst subject, no less, and they threw her a celebration dinner and bought her a new phone to keep up the good work. High school was even tougher. I threw myself into every activity I could think of just trying to earn their approval. I kept a perfect GPA, ran the school newspaper, led the debate team, you name it. Tabitha, on the other hand, just scraped by with CS and mostly hung out with her friends. During my junior year, I was chosen to attend a prestigious summer program at Harvard. Only 2 students from our university got in. I was over the moon. When I shared the news at dinner, Dad just muttered something and quickly changed the subject to Tabitha's upcoming dance recital. Mom at least said, "That's nice," but moved on just as fast. The day I was supposed to fly out for Harvard happened to fall on the same night as Tabitha's recital. My parents decided her performance mattered more and couldn't drive me to the airport. I ended up catching a ride with a friend's family. Applying to college was another uphill battle. I worked on my essays for months, signed up for all sorts of extracurriculars, and put in the time for SAT prep. I got into several top-tier schools and even landed a generous scholarship to my dream college. When I told my parents, they barely reacted. "That's good. Just don't let it go to your head. College isn't everything," my dad said. Mom added, "Just don't forget about us when you're off being a big shot." But when Tabitha barely graduated high school and chose not to go to college at all, my parents praised her for being true to herself and not following the crowd. They even bought her a car as a graduation gift, something they never offered me. That constant favoritism did a number on me emotionally. Through my teens and into my 20s, I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression. I started therapy in college and slowly began to understand that their behavior wasn't something I caused. It took years, but I finally started to build up my own sense of worth without chasing their approval. My immediate family didn't support me, but I still managed to carve out a decent life. By the time I was 25, I'd graduated with honors, had a solid job in finance, and even bought my own house. My parents might not be proud of me, but I sure am. And that, right there, is where the real story kicks off. On my dad's side of the family, my grandfather passed away not long ago. He built up quite a bit of wealth over the years, starting with nothing and working his way into a successful business career. In his will, he split everything evenly between his kids, my dad and his siblings, and us grandkids, which included me, Tabitha, and our cousins. My share came out to be about $500,000. That kind of money could have changed a lot for me, paying off student loans, investing in my future, maybe even kickstarting a business someday. I felt incredibly lucky and hopeful when I learned about it. But when the will was officially read, my parents didn't take it well. They looked uncomfortable, clearly upset. Later, they pulled me aside and told me they thought it wasn't fair that I got the same share as Tabitha. She still lives in their basement and works part-time at a coffee shop, so according to them, she needed the money more because she was struggling. Even though I was caught off guard, I tried to stay calm. I reminded them that it was Grandpa's decision, not mine, and that he was clear about how he wanted things divided. But they weren't having it. They started pushing me to do the right thing and hand over my part to Tabitha. When I said no, they got angry and started laying on the guilt thick, saying I was being selfish and ungrateful. My dad brought up every little thing they ever did for me, like helping with my braces, buying school supplies, and letting me live at home during college, as if that wasn't just basic parenting. Funny how he skipped over the car they bought Tabitha, the constant shopping sprees, and the fact they were still paying most of her bills well into her 18s. Things escalated fast. Since my dad was acting as executor of the will, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He told me that along with giving Tabitha her own share, he was going to interpret Grandpa's wishes and hand over my portion to her too. He claimed that if Grandpa had understood the full situation, that's what he would have wanted. I was devastated. It wasn't just the money, it was another painful reminder of how little they seemed to value me. I pushed back, reminding them that Grandpa had always been fair with us grandkids and that he definitely knew what our situations were like when he wrote the will. That's when my mom jumped in, accusing me of disrespecting Grandpa's memory just because I was suggesting he might not agree with what Dad was trying to do. I brought up how Grandpa always encouraged my education and ambitions, but they dismissed it like I was just misremembering things. They claimed he'd been privately concerned about Tabitha's future and had wanted to make sure she was taken care of. So I asked the obvious question, if that were true, why didn't he just write the will that way? Tabitha didn't offer much either. When I tried to speak with her one-on-one, she just kind of shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." It was clear she wasn't going to take a stand. Feeling frustrated and betrayed, I reached out to Grandpa's widow, my grandmother on my dad's side, and told her what was going on. She was furious. She made it clear right away that my parents had no right to change anything in the will and that what they were doing went completely against Grandpa's wishes. She even sent me documents that spelled it all out. Turns out, years ago, my parents had already tried to convince Grandpa to leave everything to Tabitha. He refused, saying he believed in treating all his grandkids equally. In fact, he'd added a clause in his will that said if anyone challenged the equal distribution, they'd lose their share altogether. With that knowledge, I confronted my parents. They were clearly shocked that I knew about their earlier attempt to sway Grandpa. My dad tried to justify it, saying they were only trying to help Tabitha's future, but I could see the guilt written all over his face. Grandma wasn't messing around. She got in touch with the other executors and the attorney, then looped in my dad's siblings, who, as it turned out, were just as angry as she was. Together, they shut down my dad's plan and made sure the will would be followed as written. My parents were furious with me afterward. They accused me of airing family business and blamed me for turning everyone against them. My mom cried about how I'd driven a wedge through the family, and when my dad threatened to cut me out of their will, I told him I'd never expected anything from them in the first place. Now, they say if I accept the inheritance, they're cutting me off entirely, no contact, nothing. My dad even went so far as to say I wouldn't be welcome in their home if I accepted the inheritance. In one of the most painful moments, my mother told me that by choosing the money, I'd proven I never truly loved them, that I was just waiting to profit from their deaths. The situation has deeply divided our extended family. Some of my cousins have been supportive. They've seen the favoritism for years and respect that I stood up for myself. Others, though, think I should have just let it go, that maintaining peace in the family should have mattered more than any financial gain. Even though my dad's siblings have stood by me, their relationship with my parents has taken a hit too. It's been hard for everyone. Tabitha, caught in the middle, admitted to me privately that she feels bad about all of this. She said she never asked for any of it, but also that she's not ready to go against our parents. I get it. She's been raised to depend on their approval and to avoid rocking the boat. I don't blame her completely for that. Still, I can't deny that part of me wishes, just once, she would have stood up for me. This whole situation has dragged a lot of old wounds to the surface. I've started remembering all the little things that never felt fair, how I was passed over, ignored, or treated like an afterthought. The missed birthdays. The school events they skipped. The accomplishments that went unnoticed. It's like this one incident cracked open the entire history of feeling second best. Despite the rift it's caused, I'm standing firm. I'm going to accept the inheritance exactly as Grandpa intended. My parents barely speak to me now, and family gatherings have become strained and awkward. Last week, for the first time ever, I skipped our monthly family dinner. I just couldn't stomach the cold stares and passive-aggressive comments. Oddly enough, even with all the tension, a small part of me feels stronger, like I'm finally taking back some control. I'm refusing to shrink myself just to make others comfortable. I'm asserting my worth, and I won't let myself be erased. It's painful, but also liberating. Still, the emotional toll is real. I've started having anxiety attacks again, something I hadn't dealt with since college. I've been thinking seriously about going back to therapy to help manage all the stress. Sometimes I wonder, was I wrong to push back? Should I have given the money to Tabitha to keep the peace? As much as I'm tired of being the family scapegoat, I still fear being cut off completely. Half a year has passed since then. Let's start with the legal side. I consulted with an attorney of my own. He confirmed that I had every right to my inheritance and that what my father tried to do was, in fact, illegal. We documented everything and prepared to act legally if needed, but thankfully, it never came to that. With help from Grandma and her lawyer, as well as my dad's siblings, the matter was resolved without going to court. I received my full share. The will was honored exactly as Grandpa intended. Because of his attempt to interfere with the will, my father was officially removed as an executor. It was a long and draining process that stretched out over several weeks. There were threats of lawsuits, heated meetings, and plenty of angry phone calls. But in the end, the law was clear, and my parents had no legal leg to stand on. Unfortunately, the fallout didn't end there. My parents doubled down. They accused me of being greedy and abandoning my sister. They even tried to sway other relatives, spreading rumors that I had somehow manipulated Grandpa into giving me a bigger share. Thankfully, most of the family saw through it. About a month after the will was settled, things hit a low point. One of my aunts hosted a small family gathering. My parents showed up uninvited and caused a scene. My dad started yelling, claiming I'd robbed Tabitha and poisoned Grandma against them. My mom actually threw an old family photo album at my feet, shouting that I destroyed our family's memories. It was humiliating and heartbreaking. Several relatives had to step in to calm things down and eventually usher them out. Through all of this, my grandmother has been my greatest ally. Her support has meant the world to me, her strength, her clarity, and her refusal to let anyone rewrite Grandpa's legacy have helped me stay strong. Grandma shared stories about how proud Grandpa had always been of me. She said he wanted every one of his grandchildren to have equal opportunities in life. She even told me he'd kept a scrapbook of my achievements, newspaper clippings of my academic awards, copies of my college acceptance letters, even the program from that university play my parents were late for. Hearing that was both heartbreaking and beautiful. I had no idea. She also took it upon herself to set the record straight with the wider family. She hosted a gathering, without my parents, and laid out the full picture of their long-standing favoritism, even recalling moments I'd forgotten or never knew about. Having someone finally acknowledge what I went through for so many years was deeply validating, though it reopened old wounds too. As for Tabitha, she eventually found her voice. After some soul-searching and long conversations with our grandmother, she came to me in person and apologized. She admitted she'd always known, on some level, that our parents' favoritism was wrong, but she had been too afraid to speak up. We had some intense, emotional conversations about our childhood, how it shaped both of us in different but equally complicated ways. Tabitha shared that being the golden child wasn't the blessing it appeared to be. She said she never really learned to stand on her own and always felt the weight of needing to live up to our parents' expectations. She told me about moments when she wanted to do something independently, but our parents would swoop in and take over, depriving her of growth, responsibility, and sometimes even joy. That conversation changed everything for us. It began to repair the bond we never really got to build as kids. Since then, just the two of us have been meeting regularly for coffee, supporting each other through the fallout. What really shocked everyone was when Tabitha announced she would use her inheritance to go to college. She told me it was seeing me stand up for myself that inspired her to finally take charge of her own life. She enrolled in a local community college with plans to transfer to university. When our parents found out, their reaction was stunned silence. I think, in that moment, they realized that coddling her hadn't helped her, either. Their reactions have varied a lot. At first, they lashed out, accusing me of turning Tabitha against them. They even tried to guilt her into dropping out, saying she needed to help the family. When that didn't work, they shifted tactics. After several difficult conversations with Grandma, and seeing the change in Tabitha firsthand, my mother began to reflect. She started going to therapy. She even reached out to me hesitantly, awkwardly, to apologize. She admitted she'd been unfair and asked for a chance to begin mending things. It's a slow road. I'm cautiously hopeful, but I'm also maintaining firm boundaries. I've learned how important that is. My father, unfortunately, is a different story. He still sees himself as the wronged party. He's cold to Dabita for choosing school and barely acknowledges me. He's tried to manipulate us with ultimatums, saying he'll sell our childhood home if we don't come to our senses, or hinting that we'll be forgiven if we admit we were wrong. It's painful to watch him push both of his children away, but we're holding our ground. The wider family dynamics have shifted, too. I've grown closer to my dad's siblings, who have been incredibly supportive. Hearing from them about their own struggles with his difficult behavior made me feel less isolated. I've also deepened connections with cousins who stood by me through all this. We've even started a monthly cousins-only dinner, our own little safe space, free from the older generation's baggage. As for me, I've been putting my inheritance to good use. I paid off my student loans, which gave me an incredible sense of freedom. I'm now working with a financial advisor and building a solid, diversified investment portfolio. I've also started planning for the future. I've set aside funds to potentially start my own business one day. Something meaningful. I'm exploring the idea of opening a community center focused on accessible mental health care and financial literacy, two things I now see as deeply connected and desperately needed. But by far, the most meaningful way I've used the money is this. I've been able to return to therapy for myself, and I've helped Dabita access it, too. That, more than anything, feels like honoring Grandpa's wishes. Not just to inherit money, but to build something better with it. Both Dabita and I are still learning how to set healthy boundaries with our parents and heal from the damage of our childhood. It's a long journey, but I already feel a shift happening. I'm growing in self-awareness and resilience, learning how to navigate the effects of emotional neglect and long-standing favoritism. Despite the pain, this process has brought some truly surprising gifts into my life. I've learned how to protect my energy, how to assert myself, and how to say no without guilt. Even though I know I made the right choices, there are still hard days. But I'm proud of myself for not giving in to guilt, for standing my ground, and for choosing myself when it mattered most. One of the most unexpected outcomes has been a shift in my career path. Going through this intense family conflict, and the therapy that followed, helped me realize how passionate I am about helping others who've experienced similar dysfunction. I'm seriously considering going back to school to specialize in working with adult children of emotionally immature parents. In the meantime, I've started volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring teens from difficult home environments. Being able to offer the kind of support I wish I'd had as a child is deeply fulfilling. I'm also thinking about using part of my inheritance to create a scholarship fund for young people from similarly difficult family situations. My relationship with Dabita has only gotten stronger. We've started having a sibling day once a month, just the two of us. Last month, we went hiking and had a picnic. It was the most peaceful, connected moment we've shared since we were little kids. Free from our parents' influence, we're rebuilding our bond on our own terms. Things with our parents are still complicated. My mom has been trying, genuinely trying. She's attending therapy regularly and starting to understand the damage her favoritism caused. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've talked honestly, though not always easily, about the past and where we go from here. It's not perfect, but there's progress. I appreciate that she's putting in the work. My dad, on the other hand, remains resistant to change. He insists he's done nothing wrong and says Dabita and I should just be grateful. He's refused to be in the same room with me and has skipped several family events because of it. It hurts, but I'm slowly learning to let go of the need to change him or get his approval. That, too, is a form of healing. Grandma has become our rock. She continues to share stories about Grandpa and how proud he'd be of us for speaking up and standing our ground. Her consistent support for fairness and understanding has made her an incredible mediator in the midst of all this turmoil. All of this has redefined what family means to me. I've come to understand that sometimes, the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you were born into. I've grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins, those who stood by me when things got hard. I've also built a small but strong circle of friends who supported me through it all. Setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care have become vital parts of my life. I'm learning how to say no to situations that damage my mental health. I no longer feel guilty for putting my own well-being first. For so long, I chased my parents' approval. I ignored my own interests and needs. Now, I'm finally giving myself permission to explore who I really am and what I want out of life. To anyone in a similar situation, here's what I'd say. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for claiming what's rightfully yours. It's okay to stand up for yourself, even if it causes friction. You deserve fairness. You deserve peace. You deserve a life that feels like your own. It's never too late to start building the life you were meant to live. Seek therapy if you need to. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. Set boundaries without apology. Your worth isn't defined by how your family treats you. It's defined by who you are. The road hasn't been easy, but I'm more confident and grounded than I've felt in years. I'm excited for what comes next. And I'm determined to break the cycle of favoritism and build something better in my own future family. Things with my parents continue to be complicated. Their changes occur very slowly. A little bit better with Mom. She's still trying. She's been consistently attending therapy and has slowly started to acknowledge the damage her favoritism caused. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've had honest, sometimes difficult, conversations about our past and how we might move forward. It's far from perfect, but I can see signs of growth. And that means something. My dad, however, still refuses to change. He still hasn't acknowledged that there is a problem and that it needs to be solved. He insists he's done nothing wrong, nothing illegal, and believes Tabitha and I should just be grateful. He won't even be in the same room with me and has skipped multiple family events because of it. As painful as it is, I'm learning to release my need to change his perspective or control how he reacts. That's his journey, not mine. Thankfully, Grandma has become our emotional anchor. She continues to share stories about our grandfather's deep pride in us for standing up for ourselves. Her unwavering commitment to fairness and understanding has made her a wonderful mediator in our family struggles. Through all of this, I've come to redefine what family really means. Sometimes, the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you were born into. I've grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins, especially those who stood by me, and I've built a close-knit circle of friends who've helped me stay grounded during all of this. Setting boundaries and practicing self-care have become essential to me. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that threaten my mental health. I've let go of the guilt that used to come from prioritizing my own well-being. For so long, I chased my parents' approval, so much so that I never gave myself the freedom to explore my own interests and passions. To anyone navigating a similar storm, please hear this. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for claiming what is rightfully yours. Even if it causes waves, it's okay to protect yourself. Yes, family dynamics can be deeply complicated, but you are worthy of fairness, respect, and love. It's never too late to begin building the life you deserve. Seek therapy if you need it. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. Set boundaries that honor your peace. And always remember, your worth is not defined by how your family treats you. It's defined by who you are. The road here hasn't been easy, but for the first time in years, I feel hopeful. I feel confident. I feel ready. I don't know exactly where this new chapter will take me, but I'm committed to breaking the cycle of favoritism and building healthier, more loving relationships in the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to stay connected to more powerful life stories happening all around us.